Happiest Friday to you. Friday has always been such a incredible time in my life and in my brother. Well, hopefully it's in my brother's life too. But I remember growing up, I was so sad on this Friday because I woke up and I heard it raining, and I was thinking, man, there's going to be a rainy day schedule. It's going to be at Los Padres Elementary School on Vandenberg Air Force Base. And rainy day schedule was cool, but it wasn't as cool because we were breakdancing outside when it wasn't raining. We were playing soccer. We were throwing the football. We were doing all these things. And I remember hearing the raindrops, and I was like, man, this Friday, why has it got to rain? And then I got up and I walked in the kitchen, and my mom was cooking bacon, and the popping sounded like it was raining. And I realized that it's not raining. My mom was just cooking bacon. And my mom would always just make such a big deal about Fridays. And so I try and do that with my son. I try and do that with my daughter. And I got to take Maddox to school this morning. And I tell you, we have been watching the Runarounds. And if you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon Prime. And it's a series. They only got one season. And it's all about like graduating from high school. And the story is set up like, they're going to graduate from high school, and all these kids are going to these colleges, all the stuff. And then there's a couple of kids who are playing music. They're in a band, and some of them want to follow their dreams as opposed to going the traditional route of college. And, it's a story about this friendship and all this stuff. And my son and I kind of got into it, and we started watching it, and then we just got hooked. And the music is amazing. The storyline is amazing. And it has just been incredible. And I had all these things listed out for you today from Proverbs 26. We'll talk about them. But the main emphasis was the Runarounds and how much it inspired me, how much it lit me on fire. And I just want you to celebrate Friday. Like, if it's not the Runarounds, find something to watch or to listen to that will just lift your spirits. Me and my son were laughing on the way to school today. We were so excited. He was telling me, I can't wait for season 2. And he was telling me, I'll even watch season 1. And then I went down the rabbit hole. And yes, I already have messaged everybody in the band from the Runarounds and messaged them on Instagram and invited them on the podcast and invited the whole band. And I want to find where they're touring so that way I could take my son and we could go see it. But a lot of their shows are sold out. But I believe that's going to happen too. So I look forward to it. I look forward to having every one of you who is listening help me to get the Runarounds on the podcast. I think it would be cool, and my son would think I'm cool. I actually think that my son already thinks I'm cool, but it would make it even cooler at that time. So, but we'll talk about Proverbs 26 today, but mainly we're going to talk about the Runarounds. So why don't we get this party started?
Nothing more on my mind. I got 2 shines, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised. Over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
I guess we're supposed to adjust the microphone too and make sure that it's in the right place. And I want to say happy Friday to you. Happy Friday, happy Friday, happy Friday. I hope you have a smile on your face today. And if not, there's some reason why you can have a smile. We used to joke in our company and say, come to work with a smile on your face. And if you can't, then go to bed with a coat hanger in your mouth. And the reason why is because what we used to joke about is that, happy people have the tendency to make a little bit more money than sad people. And I'm not saying that you change your circumstances or, everything has to be perfect in your life. And it hasn't been. And that's one of the biggest things with the Runarounds, what I saw on the show. And this is the story arc. And, it was great writing in the series, the Runarounds. If you guys haven't got a chance to see it, I definitely recommend it. But what it was in the storyline, you would get this high, like, oh my gosh, they're just about to break through. And then, something would happen. And I tell you, this happened it's been the theory, or not the theory, the theme lately. I'm holding up the book, I Refuse to Quit by Old School Ice Cream, Greg Lewis. This guy is unbelievable. But when you read his book, he ended up, he's one of the most iconic people in the music industry now, and he's a hip hop legend in Chicago. But it wasn't a straight line. It wasn't like, hey, I got my big break and then everything worked out. You'll read in the book about when his friend Cootie started playing his music during a photo shoot for a then very, it wasn't a high name producer at the time, but a guy that you guys might know, Kanye West. He was doing a photo shoot, and Cootie started playing Abstract Mind State, which was Old School Ice Cream's group, and he was playing it on heavy rotation. And Kanye heard it. Well, then they had a conversation, and you're thinking in the book, oh my gosh, now everything's going to be, jumping to the stratosphere. And it didn't. It's not a linear success is not a linear type of situation. And that's what I learned with the Runarounds. If you haven't got a chance to be able to get the book, Old School Ice Cream, I Refuse to Quit, it's that kind of theme too. And it's been all throughout the time, because I am a dreamer. I'm a believer. And a lot of times I think, oh, it's just going to take one more thing and then it's going to skyrocket. And what I find in this life, and probably you found too, is that there's a lot of zigs and a lot of zags. And sometimes there's a high and a low and an in between. And sometimes it's underneath the earth. And, there's all these, it doesn't just like success is not going to be a straight line. And I just want to encourage you on this Friday that's that. And sometimes it honestly takes one relationship and it shifts things, although it doesn't mean that everything's going to be gravy from that point. I promise you. And so if you don't know too, we've got the Vibe Room coming up, which is a live version of the podcast. You get a chance to meet the people that I get to interview and spend time with. We added a musical act to it. We added comedy, and then some of the greatest networking. That's going to be November 5th here in Carlsbad. So check that out. But let's get to the Runarounds, because these guys inspired me. I mean, I never thought that I would be inspired by an Amazon Prime series in my life. But where it started was my son started with Outer Banks. And Outer Banks is a show too, a series about kids. And there's the I can't remember the Kooks, and then there's somebody else. But they're groups of kids, like the kids, the haves and the have-nots, basically, like the rich kids and then the kids who are the kind of outcasts. And he watched that show, Outer Banks. He was really into it and he loved it. And then I saw the preview for the Runarounds, and I was like, I don't know if this is going to, be great or whatever. And then my son and I started watching it, and it is, it's incredible. And I tell you, if you get a chance to be able to spend time with your son or your daughter, if you have I have a 14-year-old and I have a almost 17-year-old, 16-year-old, I won't fast forward that. But if you get a chance, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you get a chance to spend time with them, it's like the greatest thing in the world, especially when they want to spend time with you. And so my son Maddox, we checked out this show at first, and I'm telling you, you'll be hooked from the very first episode. The character development's phenomenal. The first episode, it really draws you in. It develops all the characters. The writing is great. And what I think I loved about it the most was the music. And the music is tremendous. And I was asking my son this morning, I was like, do you really think that it's them singing? And he was like, oh yeah, Dad. He's 14, so he's very matter of fact. He's like, yes, Dad, that's the Runarounds, whatever it is. Well, I checked them on Instagram, and the Runarounds are actually a real band. And they're touring on the East Coast. So I think most of their shows are sold out right now, but I'm going to, hopefully they'll get to the West Coast, and I'll get my son to be able to meet the Runarounds. And I'm focused now on getting them on the podcast on here, which will be really cool. I messaged them all this morning, sent them a video. And here's the thing for Friday. Think about this. People are like, oh, wow, you know them? No, I don't. I don't know them, but I reached out to them, and the worst possible scenario that could happen is that they're not my friends, right? That they don't want to be my friend. And I'm actually living in the worst possible reality, and that reality is pretty darn cool. So what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is that they could say no. And so I want to encourage every one of you on this Friday, step out, do something, dream a little bit. And this is what the Runarounds showed me in their show. It was about dreaming. It was getting you back to that place where when we graduated from high school, and I remember this, all of our friends, and we're around, and we're this really tight knit group of guys and girls, and we think, what are we going to do when we graduate high school? Well, we're all going to go in our different directions, all the things. And there was some that did, a certain path because they felt that they had to. Some just wanted to do that, and others were like, I have no idea. I was that guy. I had no idea. But I was a dreamer, and I didn't know how any of this stuff was going to work out, but I just figured like it's got to work out. I mean, that's the way that most of the movies work out. That's the way that series work out, all these things. So in my head, I was just naive thinking this stuff has got to work out, and I thought maybe I'll go to, community college and, take a couple classes, whatever it was. I ended up going to hair school, which I would have never guessed that in a million years. And then I got a chance to be able to travel the world with one of the greatest companies in the world, Paul Mitchell, and see some really cool people, meet some really cool people, and ended up working with the greatest hairdresser, that in my generation that has ever seen. I got to work hand in hand with him, have some phenomenal mentors, and then get to meet some incredible people and start to talk with people, and then get to travel all over the country and all over the world. And now I get paid to talk to you guys about the stories that I got to go through. So you never know, and I'm not saying that what I want you to understand is that the success that you have is not going to be linear. It's not going to be a straight line. And that's what I learned throughout this whole time. And so this with the Runarounds, it really inspired me because it got me back to like, okay, so we get into life and we have responsibilities, but sometimes, as Tim Story says, life knocks the shout out of us, right? And we stop dreaming. And what I learned through this whole series was like, what is your dream? What is the thing that you want to do? What's the thing that really wakes you up in the morning? This morning, I was so on fire because we just finished the series, which we want season 2 right away, Runarounds. If you're hearing it, we want it as much as humanly possible. We want it as fast as possible. But also my son and I were like, that series was so good that we'll watch it a second time. And we'll listen to the music. We were listening to music on the way to school. When after I dropped him off, I didn't change the music. I continued to listen to the Runarounds. And it just brought me so much joy because it connected me with my son, made me think back of my childhood, made me think of my friends, the bonds that were, and the fact that when the bad things happen, which I'm not going to give away the story, but when bad things happen, they still had each other. They still had their friendship, and life wasn't over because a bad thing happened. And so that part was really, really, really cool. And then I saw what I loved in the writing too was the subplots. There's a guy named Bez, and he's the drummer, and there's a guy named Wyatt who has a challenging relationship with his mom, and those two are actually bonded even stronger inside the group. So everybody's in there, but those two are bonded. And then there's a young man named Pete, and this was probably one of the coolest examples. Was he was the drummer, and you'll see him in there. And there's a situation. I'm not going to tell you. You have to watch it. But there's a situation with the drummer, and he makes a decision that's the best for everyone as opposed to just him. And it goes back to, there's a quote that I said the other day that, everything turns out okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And that's what JP, the co-founder of Paul Mitchell, and, he was the owner of Patron, sold that. But that's what he used to say all the time. And that's what he constantly says. And it helps me to realize that if things aren't okay, then it's not the end. And this was just, I tell you, there's so many different groups and, dynamics and everything like that. And it helped me to realize, again, that success is not a straight road. It's not a straight line. You're not going to get there. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. But it's not the end of the world. The circumstances aren't the end of the world. We've been going through this. My wife, Brooklyn, just got her kit. If you don't know what a kit is, so she is a wedding hairdresser. Well, she's the top wedding hairdresser in all of San Diego. She got voted that in 2025, and she does amazing weddings. She also does all the national and international campaigns for Paul Mitchell. So anything advertised for Paul Mitchell that you see, it's my wife's work. She works with the team with Noogie and Joey and, that whole crew. And they are just awesome, awesome, awesome. And Jose, they are phenomenal people. But when she goes to do these photo shoots, she has a kit. And that kit is probably about, I would say, anywhere from about $15,000 to $20,000 that as far as the material that's inside of it to make sure she could do the wedding, she could do the photo shoots, and she's all packed and ready to go. Well, a couple years, I think it was about a year ago, she got it stolen. And it was devastating, absolutely devastating, not only because she got it stolen, but it's 15, 20, it's violation. And then that's her livelihood. That's how she works. And then she went up to LA and she stayed in the hotel and she put her car in valet and it got stolen again. And that happened. There's been some emotional things. We got a 16-year-old daughter. We got a 14-year-old son. I told you that before. So there's things that are happening and there's circumstances that aren't the most favorable in life right now. But just because there's challenges doesn't mean that it's the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. That's what JP told me. And I'm trusting you, JP, in this. And I had a conversation with my brother yesterday, my brother Brad, and I was like, I'm going to have a little talk with JC. And he's like, I'm talking about Jesus. And he told me, he said, well, you always told me that it's okay to yell at God. And I said, well, I'm not going to yell at him that much, but I'm definitely going to ask him, like, what's going on, man? What's happening? Because these circumstances that are happening, they don't seem like they're in line with the desires that I have, the things that you tell me, your truth, all these things. And what God has kept reminding me is that your circumstances aren't going to all change. It's going to be the way that you view them. And that's what joy is. And so when I was watching the Runarounds, it just kept emphasizing that they would they would take 2 steps forward, then they would get hit back 10 steps. And this story arc was amazing, but it's the way that our life works most of the time. But we have the tendency to maybe not get high enough when the 2 steps happen forward. And we get so low when we get knocked back. But what God is saying is like, just be joyful. And that's what I learned from this whole series, the Runarounds, is not only spending time with my son, seeing the friendships, taking me back, the nostalgia, back to my high school days and all those things, understanding that we still need to keep the dream alive. We need to keep dreaming and we need to keep just trying stuff. Just try stuff. Be curious. And then wrap it all in joy, which is the art of falling in love with your current circumstances and allowing magic to happen. And it's not going to change your circumstances, it's not going to change all the things, but it's just going to say, like, I'm okay right here, right now, even though some things suck. And that's what I was telling my brother last night. There's some things that suck. Like, there's some things that have happened in the past couple of days, the past couple of weeks that absolutely suck. But don't get mad at that. Fall in love with that situation because it's going to bring something. There's going to be something that's great out of it. And that's what I learned from all these themes, the Runarounds or old school Ice Gree. I'm holding his book. I refuse to quit. When every time that I've read in the book, I've watched the show, the Runarounds, I've watched been hearing all these things. What God has been speaking to me and is saying that there's going to be one little thing. One little thing. There's going to be a bad thing, but there's going to be one thing to glean out of it. And there's going to be a seed that's planted. And you have no idea all the things that are happening right now to bring the future blessing. But it takes all of the ingredients. And that's where I really want to encourage all of you on this Friday is find something today that you can absolutely celebrate. And I get to celebrate with my son. And even if it's as silly as the watching a TV show together, it has been unbelievable. We've got to hang out. We're laughing. We're connecting. We're listening to the songs. And if you get the chance, listen to the Runarounds. And then do me a favor, message them on Instagram and say, yo, your boy Kelly wants to have you guys on the podcast. the Runarounds, every single one of the group. Every one of you guys should be on Kelly's podcast because he wants to talk about this thing. He wants to talk about this dream chasing. He wants to talk about this joy. And then he wants to talk about the fact that success is not a straight line. So if everything hasn't worked out for you this week, I want to encourage you because that's probably every single one of us. Every single one of us. Imagine that your week, had something go wrong. And I believe that's every one of us. Keep dreaming. Success isn't a straight road, and wrap every single thing in joy. And as we finish up today, I want to let you know that God doesn't just speak through, like when I say the word, God just doesn't speak through just the Bible. He speaks through every aspect. God was speaking to me through the Runarounds. He was speaking to me through old school ice grease. I refuse to quit. He's speaking to me through experiences with my son, with my daughter. He's all around. And I've said this, it's an unpopular thing to say, but God doesn't just reside in church. He resides with you all the time. He made you in his image, and he wants to spend time with you. And he wants to spend time with you while you're fishing, while you're walking, while you're riding a bike, while you're doing anything, because he just wants to be with you and he'll be able to speak through that. But you got to live this life right now to the absolute fullest. So keep on dreaming, and those dreams will not be a straight line, but fill your heart up with joy. And I guarantee you the way that you look at it, when you change the way you look at things, the way things that you look at change. I want you to have a phenomenal day. It's Friday. My name is Kelly Cardenas, and I'm officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and soul.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain we put the